In a distant part of the galaxy, where countless stars twinkled like diamonds against the endless black canvas, humanity had finally earned its seat at the table of the Galactic Council. This council was made up of many alien races, each far older and more advanced than humans. For years, Earth had worked hard to prove itself worthy of joining this powerful group. Now, after decades of effort, humanity had been accepted as a member. But not everyone in the council was happy about it. Ethan Cole stood tall in the grand chamber of the Galactic Council. The room was enormous, with high ceilings that seemed to stretch into infinity. Strange symbols floated in the air, glowing softly, as if alive. Around him, representatives from dozens of alien species sat in their unique forms, some resembling giant insects, others looking like shimmering clouds of light, and a few appearing almost human but with subtle differences, like extra eyes or skin that changed color. Ethan felt small in this room, but he carried the hopes and dreams of billions of people back on Earth. Beside him stood Clara Bennett, his assistant and closest ally. She was calm and sharp, always ready with advice when Ethan needed it most. Her presence gave him strength. Together, they represented humanity, a young and ambitious species trying to find its place among the stars. But today, the atmosphere was tense. Whispers filled the chamber, and Ethan could feel the weight of judgmental stares pressing down on him. The tension reached its peak when Ambassador Varnock rose to speak. He was a towering figure, his body covered in a hard chitinous shell that gleamed under the chamber's lights. His 6 legs clicked softly against the floor as he moved forward. Varnock's voice boomed through the room, deep and cold, sending shivers down Ethan's spine. "Humans," Varnock began, his tone dripping with disdain, "are newcomers to the galactic stage. They are primitive, reckless, and unprepared for the responsibilities of membership. Their technology is crude, their understanding of the universe shallow. Allowing them to join us is like giving a child a weapon. It is dangerous and irresponsible." The room fell silent. Every eye turned to Ethan, waiting for his reaction. Clara glanced at him, her expression unreadable. Inside, Ethan felt a storm brewing. He wanted to defend humanity, to shout that they were more than what Varnock claimed. But he knew better. Losing his temper would only make things worse. Instead, he took a deep breath, forcing himself to stay calm. He reminded himself why he was here, to fight for humanity's future. As Varnock continued his speech, mocking humanity's achievements and questioning their worthiness, Ethan's mind raced. He thought about all the struggles humanity had overcome, the wars, the disasters, the moments when everything seemed lost. Yet, time and again, humans had risen above their challenges. They had built cities, cured diseases, explored space, and reached out to other worlds. Humanity wasn't perfect, but it was resilient. And resilience, Ethan believed, was something no one could take away. When Varnock finished speaking, the chamber remained quiet. The insult hung in the air, heavy and sharp. Ethan knew this was his moment. The entire galaxy was watching, waiting to see how humanity would respond. Would they cower under the pressure, or would they stand tall and prove their worth? As Ethan stepped forward, his heart pounding but his resolve firm, he realized this wasn't just about answering an insult. It was about showing the galaxy who humans truly were. Clara whispered softly beside him, offering words of encouragement. "You've got this, Ethan. Show them what we're made of." With a nod, Ethan prepared to speak. The next few minutes would change everything. For humanity, for the Council, and for the future of the galaxy. Ethan stood at the edge of the Council chamber's central platform, his hands clasped tightly behind his back. The weight of Ambassador Varnock's words still lingered in the air, sharp and cutting. Every alien representative in the room seemed to be waiting for him to falter, to show weakness. But Ethan knew he couldn't let that happen. This wasn't just about him. It was about every human being back on Earth who had worked, dreamed, and sacrificed to get humanity to this point. Clara leaned closer to him, her voice barely above a whisper. "Remember who we are. she said softly. Her words were simple, but they carried strength. Ethan nodded slightly, drawing confidence from her calm demeanor. He glanced at her briefly, seeing the determination in her eyes. She believed in him, and that belief fueled his resolve. The silence in the chamber stretched longer, heavy with anticipation. Finally, Ethan stepped forward, his movements deliberate and steady. He looked out at the gathered representatives, meeting their gazes one by one. Some stared back with curiosity, others with skepticism, and a few with outright hostility. But Ethan didn't flinch. Instead, he began to speak, his voice clear and measured. Humanity, he started, is not perfect. We know that better than anyone. Our history is filled with mistakes, wars, conflicts, and moments where we failed to live up to our ideals. But what sets us apart is not our perfection. It's our ability to rise after we fall. He paused, letting his words sink in. Around the room, some of the council members shifted in their seats, intrigued despite themselves. Ethan continued, his tone growing warmer as he spoke. We faced challenges that would have destroyed weaker species: famine, disease, natural disasters. We've endured them all. And through it all, we've learned, we've adapted, we've grown. That's what defines us. Not our failures, but our refusal to give up. As he spoke, Clara stood quietly beside him, her presence a steady anchor. She watched the council members closely, noting the subtle changes in their expressions. Some seemed skeptical, while others appeared thoughtful. Ethan's words were hitting home, even if only a little. He went on to describe humanity's journey, the early days of exploration, the first steps on the moon, and the countless technological breakthroughs that followed. Every step we've taken has been hard-earned, Ethan explained. We didn't inherit our knowledge or our technology from ancient ancestors. We built it ourselves, piece by piece, often through trial and error. And yes, we made mistakes along the way, but we never stopped trying. The room grew quieter as Ethan painted a picture of humanity's resilience. He spoke of how humans had once lived in caves, relying on fire for warmth and protection, and now they reached for the stars with machines more advanced than anything their ancestors could have imagined. You call us primitive, he said, his voice firm but respectful. But I say we are proof that progress is possible, no matter where you start. Ambassador Varnock shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his insectoid body clicking faintly against the polished floor. Ethan noticed the movement but didn't let it distract him. He was here to represent humanity, and he wouldn't be swayed by intimidation. Clara gave him an almost imperceptible nod, silently urging him to keep going. Ethan took a deep breath and prepared to move into the next part of his speech. He knew the hardest part was yet to come, addressing the council's doubts head-on. But for now, he had planted a seed of doubt in their minds. Humanity wasn't just a reckless child playing with fire. They were survivors, dreamers, and builders. And Ethan was determined to make sure the galaxy understood that. The tension in the room was palpable, but Ethan felt a flicker of hope. He had captured their attention, and that was the first step toward changing their minds. Ethan's voice carried across the vast chamber, steady and strong. The representatives of the Galactic Council listened, some with curiosity and others with growing unease. He had already spoken about humanity's resilience and determination, but now he wanted to show them something more, something that would make them see humans not as children, but as equals. Let me tell you a story, Ethan said, his tone calm but commanding. It begins thousands of years ago, long before we reached for the stars. Back then, our ancestors lived in small tribes, struggling just to survive. They faced predators, harsh weather, and limited resources, but even in those difficult times, they dreamed. They looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. That curiosity, it drove them forward. He paused, letting his words sink in. Clara stood beside him, her posture relaxed but alert. She could see the council members leaning slightly forward, drawn into Ethan's narrative. Even Ambassador Varnock, who had been so dismissive earlier, seemed to be listening more closely now. Ethan continued, painting a vivid picture of humanity's past. Our ancestors built tools from stone and fire. They learned to farm, to create art, and to write down their thoughts. Each generation added to the knowledge of the one before it. Slowly, step by step, they built civilizations: Egypt, Mesopotamia, China, India, Greece. These were the first sparks of what would become modern humanity. And through all of it, they never stopped asking questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What lies beyond the horizon? The room was silent, the only sound the faint hum of the glowing symbols floating in the air. Ethan's words were simple, but they carried weight. He wasn't just reciting history. He was showing the council the heart of humanity, the relentless drive to explore, to learn, and to grow. And then, Ethan said, his voice rising slightly, we reached for the stars. It started with simple telescopes, tiny instruments that let us see farther than ever before. Then came rockets, satellites, and finally, humans walking on the moon. Do you know what that moment meant to us? It wasn't just a scientific achievement. It was proof that no dream is too big if you're willing to work for it. Clara watched as several council members exchanged glances. Some nodded slowly, clearly moved by Ethan's words. Others still looked skeptical, but their expressions had softened. Even Varnok's sharp gaze seemed less hostile, though he remained stiff in his seat. Ethan pressed on, knowing he had to drive his point home. We didn't do this alone, he admitted. We made mistakes along the way. We polluted our planet, fought wars, and sometimes ignored the consequences of our actions. But every time we fell, we got back up. Every failure taught us something new. And now, here we are, standing before you, ready to take our place among the stars. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. You say we're primitive, that we don't belong here. But I ask you this, how many of your own civilizations started just like ours? How many of you once looked up at the stars and wondered what lay beyond? Don't mistake our youth for weakness. Humanity may be young, but we carried the same spark of curiosity and ambition that brought each of you here today. The chamber was completely silent now. Ethan could feel the tension easing, replaced by something else. Respect, perhaps, or at least a willingness to listen. Clara gave him a small, encouraging smile. She knew he was doing exactly what they had hoped for, making the council see humanity not as a threat or a burden, but as a species worthy of its place. As Ethan prepared to move into the next part of his speech, he felt a surge of confidence. He had shown them where humanity had come from. Now it was time to show them where they were going, and why they deserved to be taken seriously. Ethan's speech had already captured the council's attention, but now he was ready to take it a step further. He knew words alone wouldn't be enough to change their minds completely. He needed to show them something tangible, something that would leave no room for doubt about humanity's potential. Let me show you what we've achieved, Ethan said, his voice steady and confident. He nodded to Clara, who quickly activated a small device on her wrist. The glowing symbols in the air shifted, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a sleek, futuristic starship hovering silently in space. The design was unlike anything the council had seen before. Smooth curves, glowing panels, and an aura of quiet power. This, Ethan explained, pointing to the hologram, is the Aegis Nova. It's humanity's latest breakthrough in space travel. Unlike many of your ships, it doesn't rely on draining energy from nearby stars or planets. Instead, it uses a self-sustaining quantum drive, an invention born entirely from human ingenuity. The council members leaned forward, their curiosity piqued. Some whispered among themselves, while others simply stared at the hologram in awe. Even Ambassador Varnok's rigid posture softened slightly as he studied the ship. Ethan could see the skepticism in their eyes beginning to fade, replaced by interest, and perhaps even admiration. What makes this ship special, Ethan continued, isn't just its speed or efficiency. It's the fact that we built it with respect for the universe around us. We didn't just think about how to get from one place to another. We thought about the impact our journey might have on the stars, the planets, and the beings we share this galaxy with. This ship represents more than technology. It represents humanity's commitment to exploration without destruction. Clara stood quietly beside him, watching the council's reactions. She could see the subtle shifts in their expressions, the raised eyebrows, the thoughtful nods, the glances exchanged between representatives. They were starting to see humanity in a new light. Ethan pressed on, knowing this was his chance to make a lasting impression. We know we're not perfect, but we're learning. And every day, we're getting better. This ship is proof of that. It's proof that humanity isn't just trying to keep up with the rest of you. We're trying to contribute, to add something new, something valuable, to the galaxy we all share. The room was silent, the weight of Ethan's words hanging in the air. He could feel the momentum shifting in humanity's favor, but he wasn't done yet. He turned his gaze directly toward Ambassador Varnock, who had been so quick to dismiss humanity earlier. Ambassador Varnock, Ethan said, his tone respectful but firm. You called us reckless. You said we're not ready to be part of this council. But tell me this, if we're so primitive, why does our progress worry you? Why does the idea of humanity reaching for the stars make you uncomfortable? Varnock stiffened, clearly caught off guard by the question. His insectoid body shifted uneasily, and for a moment, he didn't respond. The other council members glanced at him, their expressions unreadable. Ethan had struck a nerve, and everyone in the room could feel it. Clara gave him a small nod, silently urging him to keep going. Ethan took a deep breath and continued. I'm not here to accuse anyone of fear or jealousy. I'm here to remind you of something important. Growth comes from challenge. Humanity may be young, but we're eager to learn. We're eager to grow. And we're eager to earn our place among you, not by tearing others down, but by building ourselves up. The council chamber remained silent, the tension palpable. Ethan could see the wheels turning in the minds of the representatives. Some looked thoughtful, others conflicted, but none seemed indifferent anymore. He had planted the seeds of doubt in their assumptions about humanity, and now it was up to them to decide what to do with it. As Ethan stepped back slightly, he felt a sense of quiet triumph. He hadn't won the battle yet, but he had made them listen. For the first time, the council was seeing humanity not as a burden or a threat, but as a species with something meaningful to offer. And that was a victory worth celebrating. The silence in the council chamber was heavy, almost suffocating. Ethan stood tall, his eyes locked on Ambassador Varnock, who still hadn't responded to his pointed question. The insectoid ambassador shifted uncomfortably, his sharp mandibles twitching as if searching for the right words. Around the room, the other representatives exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of curiosity and unease. Ethan could feel the tension building, but he didn't back down. He knew this was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. Finally, Varnock spoke, his deep voice cutting through the quiet like a blade. Your progress is unexpected, he admitted grudgingly. But speed does not equal wisdom. You are still inexperienced, prone to mistakes that could harm not just yourselves, but others. Ethan nodded slowly, acknowledging the concern without letting it weaken his stance. You're right, he said calmly. We are inexperienced. But tell me, Ambassador, how many of your own civilizations started out exactly the same way? How many of you made mistakes when you first began exploring the stars? Did you never miscalculate? Never cause unintended harm? Varnock hesitated, his glowing eyes narrowing slightly. Ethan pressed on before the ambassador could respond. I'm not here to claim we're perfect. Far from it. But every mistake we've made has taught us something valuable. Every failure has pushed us to do better. That's what growth looks like. And now we're ready to take our place among you. Not because we think we're superior, but because we're willing to learn. Clara stood quietly beside him, her hands clasped in front of her. She watched the council members closely, noting how their expressions softened with each word Ethan spoke. Some were nodding slowly, while others whispered to their neighbors. The tide was turning, and she could feel it. Ethan took a step forward, his voice rising just enough to fill the chamber. You fear us because we're different, because we're new. But difference isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Imagine what we could achieve together. Imagine the ideas we could share, the challenges we could overcome. Humanity may be young, but we carry the same spark of curiosity and ambition that brought all of you here today. He paused, letting his words sink in. Then, with quiet determination, he added, we don't seek dominance or control. We seek partnership. We want to contribute, to help build a better future for everyone, not just humans, but all species. But we can't do that if you keep seeing us as children who need to be scolded instead of equals who deserve respect. The room was completely silent now, the weight of Ethan's words hanging in the air. Even Varnock seemed unsure of how to respond. For the first time, the council wasn't looking at humanity as a problem to solve. They were seeing it as a potential ally. Clara gave Ethan a small, encouraging smile. She knew he had done everything he could. Now it was up to the council to decide. As Ethan stepped back slightly, he felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had given them plenty to think about, and no matter what happened next, he had shown them the truth about humanity. The head of the council, a shimmering being of light known as Counselor Lazira, finally broke the silence. Her voice was soft, but carried an undeniable authority. Ambassador Cole, she said, addressing Ethan directly, you have presented a compelling case. The council will deliberate on this matter and reach a decision shortly. Ethan bowed his head respectfully. Thank you, Counselor, he replied. As he and Clara returned to their seats, he allowed himself a small private smile. He had faced one of the most powerful assemblies in the galaxy, and he had held his ground. Whatever the council decided, humanity had proven it belonged in the conversation. For the first time in days, Ethan felt a flicker of hope. They weren't just fighting for acceptance, they were fighting for understanding. And judging by the looks on the council members' faces, they might just have won it. The days following Ethan's speech were a whirlwind of activity. News of his bold address spread quickly, not just through the Galactic Council, but across the galaxy itself. Reports of humanity's defiance and its impressive starship prototype reached even the most distant corners of known space. On Earth, the reaction was electric. People gathered in streets and squares, watching broadcasts of Ethan's speech on giant screens. Social media buzzed with pride and excitement. For the first time in years, humanity felt united, standing shoulder to shoulder as one species. Back at the council chamber, the representatives were deep in discussion. The debate stretched for hours, sometimes late into the night. Clara stayed by Ethan's side, offering support and advice whenever he needed it. Together, they worked tirelessly to keep the momentum going, reaching out to sympathetic council members and building alliances. They knew the battle wasn't over yet, but the atmosphere had shifted. Humanity was no longer seen as a burden. It was now viewed as a potential partner. Ambassador Varnock, however, faced a different kind of challenge. His harsh words about humanity had backfired, earning him criticism from several council factions. Some accused him of being overly aggressive, while others questioned whether his views reflected bias rather than logic. Back on his home planet, public opinion turned against him as well. Images of Ethan's calm and respectful response to Varnock's insults circulated widely, painting the Zorethian ambassador as unreasonable and outdated. For the first time in his long career, Varnock found himself on the defensive. Meanwhile, Ethan and Clara focused on solidifying their position. They shared more details about humanity's achievements, emphasizing not just technological advancements, but also cultural growth. They highlighted Earth's art, music, and literature, showing that humanity's contributions went beyond science and engineering. Slowly but surely, they began to win over key members of the council. Even some who had initially opposed humanity's membership started to see its value. When the council finally reconvened to announce their decision, The chamber was packed. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy filled the seats, eager to hear the outcome. Ethan and Clara stood together at the center of the platform, their faces calm but their hearts racing. This was it, the moment that would determine humanity's fate. Counselor Lazura rose to speak, her shimmering form glowing softly in the dim light. After much deliberation, she began, her voice clear and steady. The Galactic Council has reached a decision. Humanity's membership will be upheld. Furthermore, we invite Earth to collaborate on future initiatives aimed at advancing galactic cooperation and exploration. The room erupted into murmurs. Some representatives cheered quietly, while others clapped politely. Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him, followed quickly by pride. He turned to Clara, who gave him a wide smile and a subtle thumbs up. They had done it. Against all odds, they had proven humanity's worth. As the session ended, several council members approached Ethan and Clara to congratulate them. Even Ambassador Varnock, though stiff and formal, offered a curt nod of acknowledgement. It wasn't an apology, but it was close enough. Ethan accepted it graciously, knowing that respect often came in small steps. Later that evening, back in their quarters, Ethan and Clara sat together, reflecting on everything that had happened. "We did it," Clara said softly, breaking the silence. "Not just for us, but for everyone back on Earth." Ethan nodded, staring out the window at the endless expanse of stars. "This is just the beginning," he replied. "We've earned our place here, but now we have to prove we deserve it. The real work starts now." And as they prepared to return to Earth, Ethan couldn't help but feel hopeful. Humanity had shaken the stars and taken its first real step toward a brighter future among them. Ethan and Clara returned to Earth as heroes, their faces broadcast across every screen and their names spoken with pride. The news of humanity's victory spread like wildfire, uniting people from all corners of the planet. Cities lit up in celebration, fireworks painted the night skies, and crowds gathered to cheer for the two individuals who had stood before the galaxy and proven Earth's worth. For the first time in history, humanity felt truly connected, not just to each other, but to the stars above. Back home in Colorado, Ethan stood on the porch of his small house, gazing up at the sky. The cool evening breeze carried the scent of pine trees, and the distant hum of crickets filled the air. It was peaceful, a stark contrast to the chaos of the Galactic Council chambers. Clara sat nearby on the steps, sipping a cup of tea. She had insisted on coming along to help him unwind after their long journey. "You did good, Ethan," she said softly, breaking the silence. "Better than good. You changed everything." Ethan smiled faintly, but didn't respond right away. His mind was still processing everything that had happened. The Council's decision wasn't just a win for him or Clara, it was a win for every human being. But he knew this was only the beginning. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, but keeping it would require more than speeches and prototypes. It would take hard work, humility, and a willingness to grow. "We're not done yet," Ethan finally said, his voice quiet but firm. "The Council gave us a chance, but we have to prove ourselves every day. One mistake, one wrong move, and they'll be quick to shut us out again." Clara nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. "True, but we've got this. We've already shown them what we're capable of. Now it's about building trust, showing them that we're here to contribute, not just take." Ethan turned to look at her, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think we can do it? Really do it? Keep up with them, I mean?" Clara set her cup down and met his gaze. "We don't have a choice," she said with a smile. "But yeah, I think we can. We've got something most of them don't. Heart. Passion. That fire inside us that keeps pushing us forward, no matter how tough things get. That's our edge." Ethan chuckled softly, shaking his head. "You always know how to put things into perspective." As the days passed, life on Earth began to change. The Council's decision opened new doors for humanity. Scientists and engineers worked alongside alien experts, sharing knowledge and ideas. Artists and musicians collaborated with extraterrestrial creators, blending cultures in ways no one had imagined. Slowly but surely, humanity started carving out its role in the galaxy. But Ethan never forgot the weight of responsibility that came with it. He traveled the world, speaking to leaders and communities, reminding everyone of the importance of unity and cooperation. "This isn't just about us," he often said. "It's about showing the galaxy that we're ready to be part of something bigger, something greater." One evening, as he stood on a stage addressing a crowd of thousands, Ethan felt a deep sense of gratitude. Humanity wasn't perfect, and it never would be. But it was resilient, curious, and determined. Those qualities had brought them this far, and they would carry them even farther. When the event ended, Ethan stepped off the stage and walked alone under the starlit sky. He thought about the journey ahead, the challenges and opportunities waiting among the stars. For now, though, he allowed himself a moment of peace. Against all odds, humanity had shaken the stars and found its voice. And as Ethan looked up at the endless expanse above, he knew one thing for certain: the best was yet to come.